This is Learning with Coach History. Hey everyone, this is the first of 4 lessons in the series on imperialism. Today we'll discuss imperialism and America. And in this lesson, you're going to learn how economic activities lead to political and military involvement overseas. The key terms and people: Queen Liliuokalani, imperialism, Alfred T. Mahan, William Seward, Pearl Harbor, Sanford B. Dole. In 1893, Queen Liliuokalani of Hawaii gave up her throne. Hawaii was about to be taken over by the United States. By the 1880s, many American leaders thought that the United States should establish colonies overseas. This idea was called imperialism, the policy in which stronger nations extend economic, political, and military control over weaker territories. European countries had competed for territories all over the world. Most Americans gradually accepted the idea of overseas expansion. 3 factors fueled American imperialism: desire for military strength, thirst for new markets, and a belief in the superiority of American culture. Admiral Alfred T. Mahan of the US Navy supported growing American naval powers so the United States could compete with other nations. The United States built such modern battleships as the Maine and the Oregon. The new ships made the United States the world's largest naval power. By the late 1800s, technology had changed American farms and factories. They produced more than Americans could consume, so the US needed foreign trade. American businesses needed markets for their products and raw materials for their factories. The third factor of American imperialism was a belief that the people of the US were better than the people of other countries. This racist belief came from people's pride in their Anglo-Saxon, the Northern European, heritage. People sometimes felt they had a duty to spread their culture and Christian religion among other people. William Seward was Secretary of State for Presidents Lincoln and Andrew Johnson. In 1867, he purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Some opponents in Congress made fun of the deal, calling it Seward's Icebox or Seward's Folly. The Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean had been important to the U.S. since the 1790s. Merchants had stopped there on their way to China and India. In the 1820s, American missionaries founded Christian schools and churches on the islands. A number of Americans had established sugar plantations in Hawaii. In the mid-1800s, these large farms accounted for about 3/4 of the wealth in the islands. Plantation owners brought thousands of laborers to Hawaii from Japan, Portugal, and China. This weakened the influence of the native Hawaiians. By 1900, the foreign laborers outnumbered the Hawaiians 3-1. In 1875, the U.S. agreed to import Hawaiian sugar duty-free. Over the next 15 years, Hawaiian sugar production increased 9 times. Then the McKinley Tariff of 1890 caused a crisis for Hawaiian sugar growers. With the duty on their sugar, Hawaiian growers faced stiff competition from other growers. The powerful Hawaiian sugar growers called for the U.S. to annex Hawaii. The U.S. military had already understood the value of Hawaii. In 1887, the U.S. forced Hawaii to let it build a naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii's best port. Also in that year, white business leaders forced Hawaii's King Kalakaua to amend Hawaii's constitution, limiting voting rights to only wealthy landowners. But then Kalakaua died in 1891. His sister became Queen Liliuokalani. She wanted a new constitution that would give voting power back to ordinary Hawaiians. American business interests did not want this to happen. American business groups organized a revolt against the Queen. The U.S. Ambassador John L. Stevens helped them. The planters took control of the island. They established a temporary government headed by American businessman Sanford B. Dole. Stevens urged the U.S. government to annex the Hawaiian Islands. President Grover Cleveland refused to take over the island unless a majority of Hawaiians favored it. In 1897, however, William McKinley became president. He favored annexation. In 1898, Hawaii became a U.S. territory.